Hi everybody, it's Kate Quinn from Fabricated Quilts. So I thought I would just actually say hello as a person today and welcome you guys to the broadcast. But it looks like we don't have anybody on just yet. Hi, first viewer, welcome. I'm glad we have some people signing in. So I thought I would just say hello before we started today. We do a lot of stuff where we just jump right in. But I thought we would just take a minute to say hello and kind of recognize, we've been going through our COVID situation for quite a while. And I really feel like it's been an amazing journey that we've all been able to get together and learn together and share so many things. It's been really amazing to have the interaction with people from the audience. And I just want to thank you guys so much because it's kind of a lonely time. And it's hard to be creative when there's so much stress going around. And so I just wanted to say thank you for being here and that I recognize that everybody's got different stressors and challenges in your world. And maybe they're different from mine, but just want to thank you so much for being here and hope that I can provide some creative inspiration that will help you on your journey and just make your day a little bit better. So I was asked by so many people to introduce Honey. So I'm going to ask him to just stick his head over here really quickly so you can see my helper. My husband's name is Pat Quinn, and this is my Honey. So I really appreciate his effort in keeping me de-stressed and finding things when I'm jostling around, and he's been really great just making sure that he's always available to help out. So alrighty, I'm going to flip my camera around so we can get started real quick. So let's see, how do I do that? There we go. Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining. Our theme for today is the WestaleeDesign Circles on Quilts Wreaths. And as you can see, they can be quite huge, some of them. This is Circles on Quilts Wreath number 1. And then these embellishments were put in just by pivoting the template. And I use this amazing thread. Look at that, how gorgeous that is. And I'll tell you a funny story, right, about this. So if you actually look at this whole thing, I did it wrong. So here, I'll show you up close. Look what happened, right? Something crazy. When I got all the way around, I really didn't have a good plan and making sure that everything was lined up. So that's why this one came first, because you could see even if you mess up, you can still make it awesome. Doesn't matter. It still looks great. I would definitely still use this for something. I could kind of make this into maybe a stem or something like that. So, if you make a mistake, it's not a mistake. Just keep quilting it some more and it's going to be fine. But the reason I wanted to share this is one of the things that we're going to talk about today is how you can help prevent that from happening in your own work, and some other tips that you can use to give you the best results with the Circles on Quilts. So the first one I want to start with is number 15. Let me see. We'll put it up here. Right here, we've got to show you better than that. Okay, this is the design, right? Design change, Patsy. So somebody's like, yeah, design change. Absolutely. It's not a mistake. Just go with it. Don't tell anybody, right? So this is number 15, and you can see that it's got these beautiful feather lobes. It's a feather style design. And I've put a little embellishment in every other one. And this one has an even number. It actually has 16 rotations. If you ever buy one of the wreath templates and you're not sure how many rotations that it actually should have before you make it, in the Westalee catalog, that is the Sew Steady catalog, and you can find that on sewsteady.com, and it's free. It's available to anybody. We have an online catalog. So you would be able to find out how many rotations, and because this has 16 rotations, this is a perfect candidate for the 8-point crosshair. And so that's the first one that we're going to do, is we're going to show you how you can use the crosshair to help you. And honestly, I don't have the directions for this, so I'm just going to show you my way. And so if you do it a different way, more power to you. I'm just showing you one way. There's always more than one way, but I'm just showing you mine. All right? All right, so today we are using isocord thread on top, 40 weight, and I'm using a yellow, kind of a light yellow, that's an 80 weight Deco Bob that kind of matches this creamy color on the back. So I'm not really sure how well it'll show up, but we will flip it anyway, just let you see. So I went ahead and I marked this space. So the size of this design is 11.5, which is pretty big. And this is a 12-inch box. So that means that the feather wreath is going to come out almost to the very edge here. So this is something that you would always want to do whenever you're looking at it. Let's see if I can show you. Right there, really small, covered up by my stable tape, is the size, right? And so that is something that you can use for planning purposes to make sure that you know it'll fit in whatever space that you have. And if you're not sure how big your space is, you can always just put the template on there and just look and see if it will fit or not. Make sure that, you know, it'll be within that 1/4 inch. So for here, if I line that up, you can see that right here, the edge of the template is touching, but the stitch will actually be inside there. Okay, so all of the Circles on Quilts templates have some extra markings. You can see that there's this reference mark right here, and you can see it has A1 and A is on this side, and it has B1 and B on this side. So as I said, there's different ways to do it, but I'm going to show you my way, and I'm not really going to worry too much about the letters. So maybe this will be simpler for some people, but it's going to create the double stitch pattern exactly the same on each lobe, which is something that I want. So I'm going to do it that way.
So say again, which size is that, and how many Circle on Quilt templates are there, do you know?
Ooh, I don't know. There's a lot of them. And the reason I don't know is because they're not sequentially numbered. I know that there is a Circles on Quilt Wreath 1 to 17 for sure. I know that. And then I know that there is a Wreath 41. And then I don't know what's in between there, but I know there's not 41 complete different wreaths, or maybe they are, but they're just not in production. So Leonie West is so prolific and amazing. She does have quite a few items, but maybe some of them never made it to the production line. So we're going to talk about some of the different ones and some of the options that you have in purchase. But just
that's a number 15 you're getting ready to use now.
But I'm using a number 15. That's the number that's this particular one. And all of them have different sizes, and the sizes will be listed right on it. So this particular one is 11.5. And so here's our center marking, as we said. So let's see, we actually need another crosshair mark, as we said. So let's go ahead and put that on.
And while you do that, could you explain what is a Deco Bob?
What is a Deco Bob? Deco Bob is a polyester thread that is 80 weight. It's manufactured by the Wonderfill company, and I like it because it's very fine, and I use the pre-wound Deco Bob bobbins a lot. I use these a lot. I love them. So, you know what, Susan, I'm going to repeat the questions. So even if Pat says it, I'll try to repeat the question. So the question was, what is Deco Bob? This is Deco Bob. It's an 80 weight thread. It's available in a spool or a cone, a mini cone. And then it's also available in pre-wound bobbins in many, many different colors. And it's a polyester thread that is 80 weight. So it's very fine. So I like to use it in the bobbin, and I also use it when I'm piecing because it's very, very thin, but it's strong. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the Choco liner to make the additional lines. I've already made some with my chalk pen, but I'm going to make another set of them, so I'll get lined up. So this is the original markings right here. So I'm just going to rotate my crosshair square so that the middle line is aligned and the center line is also lined up. Once we have that, all of these open spaces now are right in the middle of the previously marked areas. And this Choco liner does seem to fit very nicely right in the middle. That's why I like it, because it's convenient. Oh, we're going to have to lift up that foot here, get this out of there. Alrighty, so anyway, I know a lot of people do know how to use the crosshair square already, but I just wanted to make sure for those people that don't, if you're making more than one set of lines, you mark the first set, and then you just rotate it so that these white lines line up on your existing lines. And that was what will give you the second set of markings that you can see right here. Okay, so this is iron off pounce that I have in here. It used to be pink, but now it's iron off. I just like pink, so I'm keeping it. We'll go ahead and we'll mark that center with the pin. So just want to clarify as we go that I want to go ahead and make this a two-part because I think there's too much content for us to do it in one go because I have a lot of information. So we're going to split this into two parts. And so we probably will not finish up. I'll kind of look for a good stopping place at some point. Oh my goodness, he does not want to go on there. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to jump over the camera and get them lined up. There we go. So wreath number 12, 18 rotations. Okay, so Shanna, I'm going to show you as part of this how to do something that has 18 rotations. It's not 100% like it's going to be right here where you have a line for each one, but it is a workaround that will help make it effective and help make it so that when you get back to the beginning that you can have corrected a little bit along the way rather than have this big mess up at the end like I did. So when we start this, I'm going to line it up on one of the crosshairs. This is kind of a big piece because we've got several designs we're going to try to put on here. I want to start at this bottom area. So let me show you the alignment real quick. Let me get this. We'll do it this way. So we want to go ahead and line up one of these marks, and then we're going to start down here at B1. Okay, remember I said I'm doing my own method, so hope you'll go with me. I'm not at A, I'm at B1. And you'll see why in just a second. It's not really a complicated process. You want me to get in there closer, babe?
You're good.
Okay. All right, so let's get lined up, and we'll get right here at B1. And I'll tuck myself right in there and pull that thread up. This one has a lot of active stitching around the center. So it's important that we make sure that we line everything up as best we can, but it's going to have a lot of stitching. So it's very forgiving because you can have a million stitches, then if a couple are off, nobody's going to notice, right? So we're going to go around. I'm going to adjust my hands because this template is quite large. So up here, I want to be holding when I come into this area. So let's go ahead. We'll restart. I'm going to tuck it all the way in, right into the hook. And I'm not going to stop at A1. I'm going to go all the way back down to the bottom, and I'm going to adjust my hands as I go. Okay, now this part right here is only going to be stitched one time at this point. So we'll get to B1, and then we can rotate and get everybody lined up. Okay, so just so you can see, right now we're lined up on this line. So there's no number. We're not worrying about the number. We've just literally have rotated the template and we've got everybody lined up. And you can see right there, I'm right on the crosshair mark right there. And this line technically is also aligned on that. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the reference line. And on this one, you want this crosshair line also aligned. So because this is not at a number, don't freak out. Let me just show you where we're going. We're just going to go up. Okay. Notice that my hands are up at the top. And so right there, we've stitched enough. We've got some double stitching right there. So if you stitched 1 or 2 stitches over, that double stitching really will cover that. It really will make that pretty much invisible. So now we will go all the way back down, adjust our hands a little bit. Okay, and then we'll come back up to that B. And like I said, don't worry, there's going to be a lot of extra stitching here, so you don't need to worry about that. If it's not perfect, it's fine. All right, spin it. You're touching right there. You're right on the line. And we're lined right up at the crosshair at the top. So the reason that I have this method that I've created, and I like it for myself, you can do it your own way, you don't have to do it my way, but I like it because now this entire lobe has a double stitch, right? Let's see if we can show you the lobe. I guess we're not as well positioned. This is such a big design, we're gonna have to kind of bow out a little bit here. Is that better? So what I'm saying is, as we rotate this, we are able to double stitch this entire lobe. So all around the outside, the feather has all the definition. And because there's so much stitching going on around the center, there's going to be anyway. And then I'll show you another workaround for putting even more in there. And then that's gonna look great. It absolutely looks great. Okay, whoa. So let's go back up now. We gotta go back up to our B1. Okay, and then we'll rotate and then just get everybody on the line. That's what's gonna keep you making sure that you have the same amount of space with this, because you're looking here, this is one reference, and this is the second reference. And you can smush, you know, a little, whatever you need to do, just to make sure that you're getting those correctly spaced. I also like that this kind of gives me the long line of stitching where I don't have to, you know, stop in the middle of that. I just go all the way back and then I come back up to here and I rotate. So get everybody lined up, making sure you're on here. So I can shift this a little more, like there's a little space, but remember, we want to be on the crosshair. So if necessary, I'm gonna, you know, manipulate stuff so that I am, because that is where you need to be. So we'll come all the way back down to the bottom. All right, and thanks for your patience. I mean, I know it is a little process, you know, it's very repetitive, so you end up seeing me kind of stitch the same thing again and again. So we're looking right here, getting that lined up, making sure we're on the reference line. So you can see it does go pretty quickly this way as well. You know, there's kind of a rhythm to it. So it does help make it more efficient, I think. It goes pretty quickly. So. Oh, I think we're missing a line there. We'll have to see what we can do when we get lined up. That line is shorter, it's not long. Alrighty, there we go. So let's keep it in front so you guys can see. We'll get it lined up. And I'm gonna kind of estimate, see the line right here? I can use that as well. So I can give a little smush there to get this on that line. And that'll help us as if we were off a little bit, we can sort of get back on.
Intended to be the front or the back of the quilt?
So this, for me, is the front. I mean, I'm not going to quilt.
That's just, there's no piecing on this. This is just from a demo perspective.
Right.
That's just a
so somebody asked if this is the front of the quilt or the back. So what this will end up being is basically whole cloth. So there's a big medallion in the center. Then I've got some different spaces for some other wreaths that we'll do. And then afterwards, we'll go ahead and we'll put some embellishments in that with my Free Motion Fridays. So we'll basically, this will be a two-part ruler work, and then there'll be a Free Motion embellishment piece as well. So, All right, so you see I'm right on the line there. I'm nicely aligned. So, you know, that's something you can fudge if you ever need to get back. Having those crosshair lines can help correct intermittently instead of sort of waiting until you get to the end to try to correct things, which I hate doing that. So we're doing well. It's looking really cute. So I think we'll do just maybe a couple more. I wanted to show you an embellishment on this one before we transition to something else. So let me show you something else that you can look for. Right here, notice that my stop point is right on the crosshair line. So as we pivot it and we're lining it up on the crosshair line, if you're stitching like this and you see that you're going to go past the crosshair line, you can always just stop and it will connect. It'll be okay. It's pretty fudgeable if it doesn't, but if you go over, what you're going to get is that. You're going to get where the line kind of hangs out a little bit over the line, okay? All right, so let's go back down to the bottom. We're going to try to keep you in full view here. So again, getting lined up right there, and I'm right on the crosshair mark. So nice and easy. There's no line there, so I'm just going to pray. It'll all work out. It'll all quilt out. So you can see down at the bottom, there's so many extra lines that there's going to be kind of like a little flourish detail with those double stitches in there. And I actually like that. It doesn't bother me. I don't find it to be, you know, a problem or anything like that. I just like it. Ooh. I better not be out of bobbin because that bobbin is pretty much new. It was just beeping at me. Oh! Did you see that? I went wonky. Bonbon time. Oh no. I think I already ate my bonbons for this week. I don't need any more. Alrighty. So let's see, we need to kind of get realigned. We're a little bit off right there. So we'll just short this because we know we need to be on the crosshair, and that'll help us correct instead of keeping going wonky more. Oh, it's that meditative quilting thing. Lulls you to sleep. All right, so we only got a couple more. So get lined up. Don't overshoot it. Look for your crosshair mark. Try to get yourself nicely lined up. Bobbin thread is out. How is that possible? I just put that bobbin in this morning. It's got a bad attitude. We might have to change it. Come back down to the bottom and notice that we touched right there, so we've closed the circle, but we still got a couple more to go. So we're lining up right here and getting everybody aligned, and we stopped right on the crosshair there. Oh my goodness, I don't know why my bobbin is beeping at me, but we'll have to check that in just a moment, you guys. We'll just pray that we get to the end, right? I don't know, it might have a little flu on there. Might go crazy. All right, this will be our last one. So we'll get him lined up. And let me show you one more thing. With most of these templates, the piece on this side should be lined up right along the edge. The very edge of the template here should line up on this stitch line right here. And you can also see she's usually got a little bit of a tick mark right here that shows how we should be lined up on this side. And that means when we sew in, we should be perfectly lined up for that other side. So touch, and we'll just come back. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something crazy. So just go with me here. Let's cut these threads off of here. Okay, so now we kind of have that double stitching in the center, but you know, we can go around. Let's see, my bobbin is unhappy. And then you can just move this around a little bit, make sure you're touching. Sew a little bit. And you can put lots of extra stitching in here. In addition to that, we can mark right here. This is A. So you can see this is the center line right there. So I've circled this little A mark, and there's a little arrow right there. And watch what we can do. We can go like this. So we'll just come up to the arrow and come back down. Oh, my bobbin is unhappy. Hang on just a moment, guys. So you can see this is just a random reference that I made, and that's how we make those little veins in there. All right, we're gonna have to check our bobbin real quick, but I'm gonna put my sample that does have the veins, and so you saw I just lay the A1 right on that intersection, and that line showed you that we were splitting this right in the middle, and then I just went straight up to the arrow. So let me just show you that real quick. So this line would be lined up right in the middle of the existing lobe. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay, we'll show you one more time so you can see really good. Let's try to get you right on top. So you can see this reference line, you can see it's right in the middle of the lobe if we have that A1 right at that intersection. And so then if I sew right up to this arrow, that gives me kind of a stop marker as I go around. And I don't even need the pin. All I need to do is just line up the center and line this up, and I can stitch around the circle. I can free stitch around it so that I can go to each lobe or every other lobe. So when I did it with my sample, let me show you what that looks like. I'm protecting my pin so we don't get hurt. But this is the one where we did it every other one. And that was the same reference. And you can see right in the center, look at how much extra stitching that there is there. And it looks awesome. So even though, you know, there's a lot of stitching in there, it really makes this center circle lift up. And then there's a lot of definition right here. And you can see that you've got that double stitching on each of these as you go around. And even if there's a little, you know, dots of wonkiness or whatever, the total impact of that looks really, really pretty. And I think that's a really fast and efficient way to sew out that particular shape. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let me check that bobbin real quick. Thanks for your patience. I appreciate you guys. Oh my gosh, I used it already this morning. It is out. Literally, I just put this in when I was prepping the machine. So wow, used a lot. Fortunately, we have those bobbins that we just showed you. So now I have a bunch of them and I don't have to wind any. Thank you. I love that. So this isocord is not variegated. That was a question that came from Linda Martindale. And hi, Barbara from Canada. Let's see if I can open this bad boy. There we go. Alrighty, so we'll...
Is this the number that she's talking about, a class 15?
So the bobbins that are used for this machine, this is Janome. This is a class 15 bobbin. And lots of machines do use that, but they also have L-style bobbins as well. And those are the two main ones that are pre-wound that are available from the Wonderfill company. All right. Well, good. I think we'll be able to sew a little bit more. I guess I was having a little too much fun this morning. Sorry. Okay, so I have a question from Kathy Robinson, and she says, what machine bobbins fit the brother? Okay, so to answer that question, there is no pat answer for a brand of machines. Janome has class 15, and then they have some machines that have other styles of bobbin. And Brother has class 15 and L class, and Bernina has Bernina bobbins, and they have other Bernina bobbins. So the answer to that is you really have to look in your manual and you have to find what fits your machine, or contact your local quilt shop or local sewing shop and ask them which ones are appropriate for your machine. But many options for you. I mean, there's pre-wounds of all different sorts. Hello, Rosemary from Seattle. My daughter is getting married in Seattle tomorrow, and I am not going to be there, and I'm kind of sad about that. But she'll be coming to us very soon, so I'm happy for that. Okay, so here is our design. I think it looks great. So much fun. It is a really bright thread, and it's hard to see with all the lines. Let's see if we can flip it and see if it does any better on the back. On the back, you'll be able to see the texture of the design because the thread is not really going to show as far as color. Yeah, but you can see, you get this beautiful shape in there with that matching thread. It just looks so good. Okay, so let's do the next one. So the next one we're going to do is one of them that has some kind of like a weird number for the rotations. So it's not going to be 16, it's going to be some odd number, and how do we manage that odd number?
So while you do that, Lillian asked if you can help her when she's going around curves on her fabric. She gets slight moves of the fabric. When you do the next one, could you kind of talk about your hand positioning and how you're controlling the fabric to eliminate movement?
Okay, actually, so just to reiterate for the audience, my husband relayed that one of our audience had a question about when she's going around curves, how the ruler maybe slips around, or the fabric is not moving correctly. So I do have some great tips for that. So we'll incorporate that into our next one. So this is going to be the center of the design that we have. It's 5.5 inches. So we'll go ahead and we'll mark that. And we're just going to mark one set of our 8-point crosshair lines. Okay, and I'll show you why that this does not match up to the rotations, but we'll give you more information about that as we go. You can see how valuable these crosshair marking tools are. They are awesome. I do use them a lot. So people do ask me which one is better, the small one or the big one. For you guys right now, it's much easier for me to use this smaller one because it fits in our camera space, right? But if I'm at home and I'm marking a large piece, I do use the big one. I do like the smaller ones because I take them to class. I can fit them in my little black Yazzie bag, and they're protected and they're easy to carry, and then they don't get broken. If you have the bigger ones and you're traveling and you're taking your Sew Steady table, I recommend putting them in your Sew Steady bag, because then that does offer some protection for those larger ones. Never ever put them in a random bag by themselves, because they can get other things pushing against them and they can get broken. So where do you get the ruler work glider? So let me show you that I have my ruler work glider on. I love it. It's awesome. I don't need, my feed dogs exposed, and I kind of prefer that they aren't, actually. That's just my own personal preference. But this is the new ruler work glider. It's exactly the same size as the grid glider, but it doesn't have any markings, and the opening here is much smaller. So it's definitely covering up those feed dogs. This is available from Sew Steady or any authorized retailer that we have. It's a great product, and it's readily available for you. So let's go ahead and put our pin in. All of these templates that we're using today are pin driven, so they are all needing that centering pin. So I like to put the hole in through the front, and that way I can see where the hole is on the back, and it helps me line it up. And then I just kind of gently massage it there on the front to make sure it actually is in the center. All right, so let's see. We're going to use the one that has 24 rotations, okay? And let me show you that on a little picture that I drew. All right, so let me show you this. So this is also a feathered wreath, and it goes around in a circle, and it has 24 of these lobes. If I line up the first one so that, let's see, make sure we're doing the right one, so that we're right on the crosshair line, and I sew it out, and then I do one more, then this next one, 1, 2, 3, so then the next one here will realign back on this crosshair line. So that's the math relationship. That's 24 divided by 8 points. So within each one of these, there'll be 3 and then a realignment, 3 and then a realignment. So the reason that I think it's worth putting the 8-point crosshair in to do this design is you don't want to have no lines and then you get back to the beginning and you're like, what happened, right? So here you can do those 3 and then you can correct here, know that you're going to be touching right at the crosshair line and that this next one should be lined up on that. So that way you're doing some intermittent correction as you go around, and that's going to make it much more effective for you. All right, so let's start. All right. So we'll get lined up on the first crosshair. And we're at this B1. Hopefully we can pull that bobbin thread up since it should be long now. Very long, can you tell? All right, so let's get set. And we're gonna do basically the same concept of what we did before. We're gonna go from that B1, we're gonna sew our feather, we're gonna come back, and this just has a little tiny travel right there. And then let me show you. What's nice about this one that is different than some of the other ones is instead of just having one reference mark, notice that there are 2. And that's because it is harder to line it up without some reference lines. So now once we get another lobe in there, we'll actually have 2 positioning leaves that we can use to help us. Okay, so don't overshoot the leaf. If you're supposed to be on that reference line, don't just keep pushing until you can. Actually line it up on the line, and that's what's going to help you with your accuracy. Okay, and then we'll move forward. And now we have those 2, and they fit perfectly right there. We've got both of them lined up, and we'll be ready to put the next one in. Do we need to adjust?
Nope.
Okay.
What's the number of that?
This is number 5. So this little wreath that has 24 rotations, this is wreath number 5, and it's super cute. So we did 1, 2, 3, and now look where we are. Now we're on that line. And now remember that once you get to the crosshair mark, that is the defining alignment. Doesn't matter if these are quite off or not, which they aren't, but this is what matters because this is going to get you around back to the beginning. Okay, so now we're just going to go around. All right. So maybe a little smush, checking all my alignments for both of those. So let's start talking about going around a curve and how you can eliminate some of the movement there. So one of the things that I often see, especially in classes, my beginner classes, is people try to make the fabric go around. Let's cut some of these threads. And I'll try to demonstrate it. It's actually hard for me to demonstrate it because I don't usually do that, but I'll try to see if I can show you what I mean. All right, let's get everybody lined up where they're supposed to be. We'll get this out of here. This little guy is in my way. So what happens is instead of pushing the fabric, they try to rotate maybe the template around like this to make it follow, right? And what I'm going to tell you is that is very, very ineffective. So if this is your fabric and this is your needle and you're rotating to fit around the ruler, if you're rotating your fabric like that, then the needle isn't actually traveling, right? So what you want to make sure is right now, I need to go essentially that way, kind of to my left and a little bit towards the back of the machine to follow this curve. So I'm physically going to push the whole thing that way. And now I'm going to push it towards the back of the machine. So I have 2 staple tapes here, and I'm compressing those. And then back here, I'm actually compressing this one back here. So this particular one only has 3 little spots. But if you have movement, you can put another one down here, and you can put another one over here. I really believe that staple tape does work very effectively, and if it's moving around, it's likely that you may not have enough pieces in order for it to hold effectively. So I recommend maybe putting at least 1 or 2 more on there, and that will help you. Okay? All right, so notice that we are back on our alignment again, which is great, and we've got our 2 lobes lined up perfectly. So this one is very tight. It has quite a few lobes, so it does take some time to go around. This would be something that I think would be great if you had a 6-inch square that was kind of in the center, or if you had some like connector squares and you wanted to put something that would essentially fill them to a large extent. This one is pretty dense and it has a lot of drama. We do have another one that is very, very similar, and I'll show it to you after. And it is the same style of design, but the lobes are bigger, so it's going to have more openness. So it sews out also at 5.5, but it's going to be much more open and much more friendly, not going to be quite so filled in. All right, let's turn this a little so we can make sure that you guys can see. And let's change our view also. Let's get you in just a little bit up top. I'm going to adjust my light real quick so we can get you a closer view. Oh, did I make you dizzy? I hope not. All right, there we go. Tight, tight, tight. There we go. My camera has a little screw on there on the stand, and it does not want to lock down. Okay, there we go. I want you to be crooked, right? Okay, there we go. So now, let's see, we're lined up right here, and we've sewn 2 B's so we can rotate. We're going to get everybody lined up again right there. So you can see on these little ones, it's actually, I think, a lot easier to make them super accurate because you're not traveling very far. So notice right there, that's kind of where we would be, but we're not on the crosshair. So we're going to correct, actually. And I think we'll be okay because I didn't stitch too far there, so I think he'll stitch in just fine. And that'll help us reduce any inaccuracy as we go, just like we talked about. Now that we've corrected here, these next 3 are not going to make the error be forced around the circle. And then when you get down to the end, it looks really bad because it doesn't match up. All right, so we're down there. We'll just go to that B, rotate. Now this one should line up because we haven't made any correction on this one. We just sewed it. All right, and we should be able to get lined right up on this one this time. So we did well. We hit it right on the money there, and we're able to get things lined right back up right here, and we'll keep going. Oh, these are so cute. These are like little S's. So here, we're right on our crosshair right there. We're nicely lined up. So this one does have 24 rotations, as I said, and you can tell that it does take a little time to get through them. But hopefully this pattern is going to help you get through them a little more quickly so that you can get to the end faster. So notice that I am holding the corners right here on each of these corners, and then I've also got some pressure down here at the base. And that's what's going to compress this one that's on that side, because I'm sort of pressing down right there. All right. Right on our crosshair line, we're perfectly lined up right here, which is great because we're getting towards the end. We want to make sure that we are as closely aligned before we get to the end as we can be, so that we can be accurate. So let's rotate it so you guys can see better. So I'm going to answer Becky's question. She asked, what is the name of the tape? So the tape that I'm using is called Stable Tape, and it's made by WestaleeDesign. It's a So Steady product. And it's not just shelf liner, it's got a non-stick residue adhesive, and it's acrylic safe, so it doesn't etch your templates at all, and it does last for a very long time. So Carol, Lindsay, I'm going to answer your question too. Carol asked if this wreath is part of the Fun and Fancy. No, it isn't. I know that the So Steady ad says more fun and fancy with Kate. With Kate, everything's fun and everything's fancy, right? But these are not part of the Fun and Fancy template collection. This is just a wreath. This particular one is part of the Wreath set, which is a 4-piece set that also comes with a rope template. And I'll show you all the parts of that before we end the broadcast today. So I want you to get in really close. I want to show you the alignment now that we're almost near the end. So I want to get you in there so you can see the markings. So let me see if I can point with something useful. All right, so right here, we're lined up on this edge line and on this one. But now that we're close, we're also lined up here on this edge line right there. So now we know that we are doing well. If I needed to, I could smush and I could do a little manipulation to get these aligned if they were off. But fortunately, they aren't, because we've been being careful and we've made adjustments all the way along. So now we should easily be able to close this design without any trouble. So let's just move that last one, and notice right there, we're going to be able to bring that right in because we're right there, we're perfectly aligned, and we're aligned on both sides here. So I think this is some of this alignment issues is what I sometimes see that people have trouble with. Like they get around back to the beginning and then they don't know why things don't work out. It doesn't fit or didn't close or doesn't quite, look just right. And so what we want to show you is some techniques that you can use to help monitor that as you go, rather than waiting until the end like I did. All right, so there, isn't that cute? It turned out so good. Love it. All right, so let me show you. I'm going to show you the other one. This one had 24 rotations, and I have one that is very similar. So this is number 5, and let me show you number 17. So I'll put these on the gray so you can see both of them. Here, we'll kind of put one on each side. There you go. Okay, now they look really similar, don't they? And they both sew out at 5.5. They both sew out at the same size. The relationship of the template is 5.5. Okay, but one of them is much narrower. And here's your little picture right here. This is the picture of the stitch out. And then this is 17. And you can see how much more open it is on this. So I'm going to bring my 17 design over and we'll put them next to each other. See if we can put them side by side. So there you go. Can you see that okay? I'm going to pull out just a little bit so we can get a little bit more of an angle on those. There you go. Yeah, so I definitely draw mine out. This is for Jeannie. She asked, she said she likes the idea of trying it out on paper. I definitely do. And I love this. I love the gentleness of this curve, but I also love this one because there's more room. It's not as dense. So depending on how dense your quilt is going to be, you may say that I need something more open, or I want something tight because I'm going to do a lot of quilting on it. So it's a very subtle difference, and the stitch pattern is very much the same. But this one has 16 rotations, so I could easily do this one with the 8-point crosshair, whereas this one requires a little bit more finagling in order to make it look so precise. But they both look fantastic. I love them both. So just an opportunity for you to see just slight variances in the design can make a really big difference to quilt density and things like that. So let's go ahead. We're going to move on to another one. Oh, I'm not trimmed. Got that. All right. So let me show you real quick the ones that are in the border sampler set. Okay, this is one of them. Here's another one. So this one is number 11, and this will be part 2. This will be what we're going to be using for part 2, and I'm going to show you some special things that we'll be doing with this one for that one. And then let's see, what's the other ones that we did? And then the 2 that we just did. These are the 4 that are in your border sampler set. So I take it you can't use it on a smaller what? So Terry, I don't understand the question. Can you give me some more information? Terry White, she says, I take it you can't use it on a smaller one of what? A smaller quilt, a smaller space? So Terry, if you want to elaborate, I'll be happy to answer your question. So these 4 pieces come with 1 rope template in the border sampler set. So they give you a lot of options. 2 of the designs are 5.5. Then this one is going to sew out at 7.5. This is number 13. And then this one sews out also at 7.5, which are suitable for a 6-inch block and an 8-inch block. So that's where these selections were chosen because they fit that style pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and play with this one. This one's a little tricky, and I'm going to show you the base use of it and how to get the best results. All right, we got to take all of the extra stuff out of our way. All right. So we made some bigger spaces because some of these templates require a little bit more room. So we'll go ahead and we'll mark our crosshair marks again. I need my chocolate liner, babe. Oh, never mind. I found it. Yeah, thank you. Ah, he keeps me straight. Thank God. All right, so we'll just put, we don't need all 16, although this does have 16 rotations, and I'll show you why we don't need all of those. Although you can put them in if you need them. So I should say I don't need them. I'm going to just use fewer markings because I can. But if you want all 16 markings, you should totally do that. But I'll show you why we don't need that. Okay, so this one, I want you to look at it really close. Okay, let's see if we can put it a little further away. We're always having to change our camera angle, but hopefully that does give you the best bit of information that you can have. So this is such a cute shape, but there's no A or B or where do I start or what do I do on this. So the first time I stuck my foot right there and I tried to turn it and it wouldn't turn. That was really annoying. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to show you just a really simple way, and we're going to be using these reference lines. These are the key to success on both sides. So let's get him on there. Oh, we need our pin. Darn. All right, same thing like we did before. We'll put the pin in the front. So I've kind of got my fingers spread so the pin can go right through there so it doesn't go right through my finger. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's poked my finger with these pins before, right? All righty, so get that on there. right, so we are going to line it up. So let's put it towards you so you can see better. All right, and I've lined up the template right there. So he is going to sew right in. And this one's pretty relaxing. I actually love this template. You'll see I have another design for you next week with this one that I'm working on. Once you finish it, you can go any direction. You can go that way or you can go on this side. We'll go ahead and we'll just go this way because we can. So I'm going to make it so essentially the edge of the foot touches that center line, and then I can rotate. And I'm going to line up this reference line right on there. And that's all I need right there. If I'm lined up perfectly, that's all I need. Right? So we'll go ahead and we'll sew out the whole shape, close the design, and then right this center mark back there, I'm going to make my foot essentially touch the edge of this line right there. So this edge of the foot is lined up right there. And then I can rotate. And see how he's already touching? So if you end up rotating a little too far, all you do is just sew back on the line, and then you'll be perfectly aligned. So we close it. Here we're just using this center line because this should be lined up right on our crosshair line. And now I'm ready to rotate. And as I go, I am going to make sure that when I get to the crosshair line that I'm readjusting to make sure that that is aligned. Maybe one more. And you can always fudge it. If you can't line it up or it won't let you, then you just take another stitch. Down here at the base, let me show you, there is a little bit of a curvature right here as well that helps you line it up. So what I'm predominantly looking at is I'm looking at this point. Let me pull this tape off for a second. So I can look through and I can see that reference line right there. So maybe I should put my tape a little further down, I guess. Nope, he's got to make sure he closes that. There we go. Okay, so we're lining up there, but you can see he's also lined up down here as well. And here we want to be on the crosshairs, so we're going to go ahead and correct a little bit there if we need to. So there's our center line, so we're just on the side of the center line. So if I'm right in the middle, see how he can't rotate, right? I can't really get to where I want to be without like forcing that. So that's why I like to just shift over just slightly so that the foot is just to the side a little bit. Then it gives me freedom to make that alignment happen and get right on my crosshair mark if I need to. The other thing I like about it is because we're kind of stitching across that bottom like that, you get a nice little double stitch down here, which really emphasizes the center portion of the design, which I like as well. Make sure you're touching before you start the design. Like if your foot isn't touching the ruler, but you're lined up, make sure you sew to the ruler so that you're touching before you start doing the design. So again, right here is where I'm getting lined up, and I'm right there. Every other one is going to line up pretty easily with that crosshair. And remember that the lines are going to go away. So, you know, if there's a little snafu or whatever, the lines from the crosshair, those aren't going to stay on there forever. They're going to go away. So you have the freedom to, you know, fudge it. Okay, let's turn it so we can get you back into view. So Gisela, the number of the first ruler that I did was the Circles on Quilts Wreath number 15. That was that big feathered one. And we have another one that is slightly different, and I'll show it to you. I'm not going to sew it out, but I'll show you some of the differences. And we have some new features that as Leonie West had developed a lot of these wreaths, she's done some revisions that are really unique, and I'm going to share some information about that as well. All right, so we're lined up. Here we go. Close it. Come on this side. Well, I thought I was trying to get you in front, but now we're still in back. What happened? I think I turned it too far. There we go. That's better. So you can see I'm lined up right there. Looks like we may have to fudge a little because we want to be on that crosshair line. So I'm going to double check and make sure that I'm touching. So I had 2 stitches back in order to get lined up. And now I'm right on the crosshair line. So having those intermittent crosshair lines are so important because they help us make corrections as we go rather than waiting till the end when things are already, you know, catastrophe. So let's see, here we go. And close it. And we want to get lined up right on this crosshair line right there, so maybe a little fudging there as well. So people are asking, like, why are you having to fudge so much? Because the fabric has a mind of its own. You know, it's always, if the fabric, you know, has a little bit of fluff in the basting, some is going to push that way and some's going to push that way. And that's pretty normal. That doesn't mean that you did something wrong or you made a mistake. That's just the nature of quilting. Fabric has movement and it has you know, connections to the batting as well, and the thread can make a difference, and how fast we push can make a difference. So don't let that stuff bother you. It's fine. Just use the reference lines that you know, and you'll be perfectly fine when you get back down to the end. So it looks like I need 2 stitches to get back to the ruler. I'm right on the crosshair mark. And I'm going to show you when we do this very last one, what is so cool about the last part. So we've been using just this reference line on this side as we've gone around, but when we get to the last one, we need 2 reference lines. So let me show you. So right now, I'm going to try to make sure that I'm positioned as perfectly right in the middle as I can be in order to have this last lobe be perfectly centered between the other 2. And then we'll double stitch that right to there and tack it off. I'll just scoot that out of the way so I can see where I'm going. So right there is where I left off stitching, right there. Pick that thread up if I can. So I want to line the needle back up right there. So I'm going to use my hand wheel to precisely position it. If you had like a needle laser or something like that, that would be great to use right there. Pull both sides, and then I can pull that bobbin thread up. And then I can cut all of these threads off completely. And this right here was double stitched when we went around. So this can also be cut. And now we're finished. So let me take the pin out so we don't injure ourselves. All right, always got to put that in a safe spot. So if you have like a hole, you know, if the batting is popping up, just kind of use your fingernail and run that through. And then what you can do here is just wet that, and you can either steam it or let it dry, and that'll draw that fabric to close that hole. And then of course, if it doesn't, hey, just put some scribble in there. Scribble a little spiral right in the center. That'll close it up. Doesn't that look great? I absolutely think this design is beautiful. And let me tell you something else that is so cool about this design. This design, these are straight lines right here. So this is super easy to put graduated echoes in here with a straight edge because this is basically straight right here. So this would be a really fun design in order to be able to do that. And I'm going to show you one other sample that uses this design. So hang on just a second. Alrighty. So this is that design done with a variegated thread. So let's see if we can move out just a tad. Make sure that we don't fall down. And then we'll put some light on that for you so you can see better. So when I had the center pin right there, I did this is just a little curly cue to kind of fill that in. And that's just, you know, some random little spirals like this. This is some free motion fun. But I had the centering pin right there. And before I took the pin out, I put my Circles on Quilts templates on there. Something like this. And you put it on the pin. And you can determine which one fits best. So I wanted a little space right here. And now that I have done it, I actually think I want to put this 1/4 inch echo on the inside here. So I think I'm going to put it back on and put an echo on the inside. And I think that that is a great way to emphasize any wreath. A wreath is founded on a circle shape. So one of these spinning templates is a very good companion for any type of a circular design like this, where you can then add some dimension to it. You can make it wider, but then this is the center motif. And then you can fill this in. And you don't have to free motion, although you can just have circles with a narrower space. And so you can still have these lines. And then let's talk about one additional companion. So if this circle, let's use one of these other ones that kind of fits better. I think it's this one. Nope. I kind of want to show you how we get this part here. So I think this might be the back of this. Okay, there we go. So that's the center. So there's the line right here, right? No, darn it. What am I doing? Can't find the right one. There we go. Okay, so there's the stitch line. So when I'm sewing with this piece, as I'm going around, when I say, okay, I need a circle, you're just going to sew and then you're going to stop and you'll take this off and you put your circle on there and you'll do your circle and then take the circle off. The needle will be right there. You're going to put this back on and then you just keep sewing onto the other side. And that's a really easy way. You don't have to do all of this fill, just do the line, right? And then put that outer circle, the intersecting circle. And one of the things that I had a lot of fun doing with those is making them intersect different layers. So this is a bigger circle, but he's only intersecting this outer portion. He doesn't intersect all the way to the inner circle like this one does. And that creates just some changes in there. So visually, it's a little bit more interesting. So these are perfect companions. Anything circular can go really, really well with your wreaths. I think that they are a natural fit and they have a lot of drama that they add. So we'll be doing something similar to this, but we will be doing a different center design next week as part of the continuation of this portion. All right, so let me show you another one. Okay, so you can see we got some different sizes, and then what we'll do is we're going to put one more over here. Let's see, where's my last one? The templates are stacking up, guys. I gotta move them so we can find the one that we need. All right, so this one is also 7. Okay, so this is one of our new ones. So I'm going to show you the packaging for this one too, because this one is very, very cool. So on the one that I showed you on that other side, I'm going to make a circle around it, just like we just talked about, to make it fit. This is a 9-inch space, so it'll, fit just a little better if we put some echo in there. But this one has a built-in echo at the top, and this is part of the new designing that Leonie West did. It's pretty fantastic. So this is going to allow you to make that little feathered wreath, and then this is the echo right there of the wreath. And as you go, then you would just rotate, and then you echo right here. And there's 2 different pins, because in order to to be further away from the center, you've got to move the echo out so that you can echo that. So let's go ahead and we'll mark this one and then we'll get going. So number 16, that's the one that we're going to do right now at 7.5. And that one also has 16 rotations. So anytime that you have like an easy number like that, I think it's worth just going ahead and marking all of those spaces in, all 16 lines, not guessing. If it's nice and easy like that, might as well just put all those in there. All right, so I'm going to ask Honey real quick if we've got some questions, because I'm paying attention to the quilt and he is helping with the feed.
So can you talk about how will these templates work on a long arm machine, or which templates are for what kind of machine?
Yeah, so these definitely are long arm suitable. The difference that for these templates of how you would use them, it is a good bit of difference. So obviously on your long arm, the quilt is not moving. The long arm head, the sewing machine, is on a carriage that is moving, which means that I'm going to have to hold the template with one hand, and I'm going to have to hold the ruler bar with the other and pull the ruler around the inside of the template. The number one tip for being successful if you're working on a long arm with these type of rulers is you have to sew slower, number one, and number two, you need to have your position of your hand, it needs to be right close to where the foot is traveling. So if you're on this side sewing, you need to be holding right where the foot is. And then when you come on this side, you may need to be holding like this and pulling like that. So there's a lot of little tips for success, but this definitely will work on a long arm. Leonie West does have some older videos that actually demonstrate her sewing a template similar, you know, like this, a curvy one on the inside, where she is working on her long arm. So I'll see if I can find any of those, and I'll ask maybe if So Steady would post one of those so that you guys can have a look-see for my long arm friends. So once again, we're lining up the white lines with the markings that we've already made so that we can have lines right in the middle. This is going to give us our 16 reference lines. All right, and then we've got our center mark right there as well. So I'm going to show you the packaging for this product, because when Leonie West first came out with the Circles on Quilts wreaths, we just had different wreaths in different sizes, but we didn't have multiple sizes for the same wreath. And so this particular one, this is the Circles on Quilts number 16, and this is the set of 5. And you can see, I mean, I haven't used these. I've only used the big one there that I'm already got marked. But notice that there's different sizes. So one of the benefits to that is then you can find the right size that fits whatever project that you're working on. If you like feathers, it's great to have different sizes. And I would say that these are kind of like the Spinifex feathers. You can make a big one and then put a little one next to it, make a big one, make a little one, make a medium one. And then this is great to make some kind of an all-over feather design where you're just scooting your pin and marking it and then making these beautiful feather wreaths because they're gorgeous. And then you can just do whatever fills around the edges that you might want to do. So not all of our wreaths have all of these sizes available. There are several in the catalog that show that they have multiple size packages. I know that Wreath 41 has multiple sizes, 16 has multiple sizes, and I'm not sure exactly which ones. So, all right, so let's scoot these out of our way so we can get these out of here. All right, so let's put it on the base. So let me show you the alignment real quick. So there's the center line right there, and there's the crosshair. It's going to touch this crosshair line, and it's lined up on this one. Okay? So we'll kind of follow the same process that we did when I showed you this before, even though the lettering is different. The whole lobe of the feather comes down to C, and then this little jog is the circle in the middle. And that's why it has this circle reference line. So that's kind of going to just show you how things line up. So we'll start down here at C. We'll pick up the bobbin thread. Oh, darn it. He's a little too short. Oh, he's plenty big enough to be picked up. He's just being ornery. All right. Oh my goodness, my fingers are not working too good today. So now after all that manipulation, I'm gonna just double check and make sure that I'm lined up on my crosshair mark right back here. Okay, so let's get my needle seated and now we'll start. So this one has, you know, essentially the two reference markings that we can use. We're right here on the crosshair line and right here. So when we stitch back, we go to that C, and then that's when we're going to go to the curvature right here to D. And you're going to use this as your reference, so you can rotate that, get him lined up. Let me see if I can show you our crosshair markings. So I'm going to answer a question. I just saw that somebody said that my YouTube channel starts on Wednesday. No, my YouTube channel has been out there since 2014. But I am collecting all of these Sew Steady videos in a Sew Steady playlist because some people don't have access to Facebook or they choose not to have access. And we want to make sure that we have the ability to share this content with people in different groups, other groups that may not be here at Facebook. So if you have a friend who is interested in sewing with rulers but doesn't have access to Facebook, if you would kindly mention that exists. It's called Quilting with Kate Quinn of Fabricated Quilts, and it's got my same logo on it. And it's going to be the same content. It's not new content. We're taking all of the videos that we've done over the years for Sew Steady, and we're putting them in a Sew Steady playlist. And I'm trying to put what templates are featured in the description and in the title, so when you read the title, you'll know what the content is for that video, and you won't have to guess. So that we're just trying to make that accessible and available to other people. So can you notice that I can't talk and sew at the same time? So we always want to pay attention when we're quilting with our rulers. So if you got a lot going on, you know, you might not want to be chit-chatting too much. All right, so we're back at C, and then we'll go to our D. And we've got so much alignment right here. This center line, this line, and we know that we need a 1/4 inch right there as we sew in. So we have lots of great reference lines on this template to help keep us right on the line. So let's talk about the motion as we go here. I want you to note that my sandwich is not going to turn to the side. So I'm going to follow the template around and I'm going to push, but I'm not going to spin it. Okay, so notice that it's still at this angle just like it was before, but I am moving to the left, I'm moving to the right, and I'm moving front to back. And I think that that is what I see sometimes that causes people problems, is that they're doing that. So if you try to think about it, like if this was square, let me see if I can even try to do that. Like if this is the edge of your quilt right here, your quilt should stay this orientation. It should not be spinning like that while you're sewing. The ruler is being held in place and the quilt is moving, but it's going to move this way or that way or that way, but not around, not rotational. Okay? So let's see, we're on our crosshair line. We've got our feather lobe lined up. We're ready to go. And we're right on the crosshair line there. Right when I get back to C, I'm just going to gently make my way over to that next spot. Here, let's get us back in view. So again, get yourself lined up. There's my crosshair mark right there. It's right with the center line of the pin. And if I need to do a little smushy, I'll do some smushy. And then notice the rhythm on my machine. Nice and rhythmic. It's like, I call it the machine lullaby. It shouldn't have a lot of changes in speed, like really fast, really slow. Let it have a nice, even sound, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable if you can get that. So that if you're not already there, if your machine doesn't sound like that, then that's just something that you might want to work towards. You know, it's not that you're doing something wrong, but you'll find that there's more comfort in that, and you'll be able to control your stitches better if you have a machine that has that sound as you go. All right, so at the bottom here, we'll just scoot over. So you know what? I'll just take this off real quick. I'm going to just tack it in place a little bit so that we don't have to sew the whole thing. We'll come back and finish it later. But you guys got the idea, and you've seen my path. So we're kind of starting at this, not the little circle junction here. We're starting here, and you're going to sew that whole feather, and then that's your travel. And because this one is so much shorter and these are aligned, you're able to get right from C to D as you rotate on this one. So when we turn it, if we're at D, then we come back to C. Whereas on this one, remember, we didn't have a letter on this one. We just let it touch the edge right there. Oh, so Carol, I'm going to answer her question. So she responded when we were talking about the YouTube channel. She says, yeah, so what is premiering on Wednesday is a specific video. So what happened is I've taken a bunch of the videos and I'm releasing one each day except today because here we are. So that way for the next little bit, there's going to be that content that we've had, the different videos that we've done. You'll see maybe one being released each day throughout the week. And then on Fridays, we're going to be doing Free Motion Fridays, and that will be available on the YouTube channel as well. I'll be transferring it over to there after I tape it. Okay, so anyway, let's see where we are. So let me show you real quick. I'll just cut these threads. So now on this one, when you put the dot on there, so we have 2 pinholes, right? So we're going to move it to the other pinhole, if I can make it behave. Ah, there we go. Okay, and now look. So you can see when we line it up on the crosshair line, let me turn it this way. I think you'll get the best view right there. So you can see it's going to give you that little echo. So you'll sit your foot right in there, and you'll sew in and out, and then rotate, line it up, in and out, and rotate. So simple, such a nice, convenient way to do the echo. And because we have different sizes, so we could even do like a really big echo. If we move up another size, we can put just the echo out, and it could be wider than this because it's going to be the same number of rotations no matter what size. So if I do the 9 and then I just echo the 9 out here, it'll make a bigger gap between the two. Instead of having this be the feathers, and then if we did a bigger one of these and we echoed it, then there'd be a big gap right here so that you could put some fill in there. So having the different sizes can be really, really fun. And you can see that these are kind of like lazy feathers. They lay over a little bit. Whereas if you look at these, they're a lot more gradual right here. Whereas these kind of like have a much stronger S curve right there. So this one is the 7.5, but this also comes in the same size as this one. This is 11. And this is number 16, and this has this echo feature. Now, does that mean you can't echo this? Of course you can. This is like a circle right here. So if you find the right size, you can put a circle right in there, especially one with an outside curve. Let me show you. Let's see if we can find it. All right, well, we don't have exactly the right size, but something simple like this, for example. Look at that. Okay, see how that fits pretty well? And we can even just push it up a little bit to make sure it's echoing right there. And you're going to make these lines from the center. So you would mark right at these intersections. And then this is how you would line it up. And you'd be able to go to the cross mark and then to the cross mark, to the cross mark. So you'd have to mark each of these intersections right here if they weren't already marked, like I'd have to extend these lines. But you could use something similar like this very simply to put an echo, and just by pushing it up a little bit more, that's how you can make the echo bigger. But you would maybe want to make a little tick mark on where you're lining it up in the middle of the lobe so that they would be even as you went. Like if I just eyeball that, right there is fine because you're touching, but if I'm moving it up like that, you would want to have some type of a reference line that you could follow. So let me see if I can show you what I mean. It's easy to talk, but it's better to have an example, right? So let's say we're going to line that up there. So right there is kind of in the middle, same distance on each side. And then I would push it up. So that tick mark then becomes the alignment. And then you would have a reference mark here and here, and you would set the foot against it, and you'd sew to the next line, and then you would sew to the next line just like that. So any type of curvature that you have that approximates this shape can make an amazing echo that is really simple, and you can use what you already have. And this fabulous echo is in the Fun and Fancy set. This is the inside of the 3 by 1.5 inch oval. So it would look amazing. So never limit yourself and say, oh, my template doesn't echo. You can make an echo. You can create your own echo. Okay, so how are we doing, Sweetie Pie, on time?
It's 4:30, 4:27.
All righty, guys. So we're right at our part 1 end. It's about an hour and a half. So I think that is enough information for one day. And what we're planning to do is next week, we are going to show you a variation of this design, different than this, but using this template. And then I'm going to show you how we can add these circles and how you would intersect a circle. We won't be adding the free motion at that time. We'll just be doing the ruler work portion of this. But the goal for that session is using wreath templates, but not as you would expect. How to look at a template and reinvent its function to still be awesome and not just have a limited way to use it, be able to use it in many different ways. All right, so yeah, this is Carol. This is a wet erase marker. I saw your mark. I always mark on my templates with this vis-a-vis marker. I never use a dry erase marker on my template, and I don't use a Sharpie either, because a Sharpie would take alcohol to get it off, and we don't want to put alcohol on our templates. So this will wash away with water, but let me show you my little oval that I just had. Okay, so right now, this is a green mark on there. And if you had this and that was dry erase, you would have green marker all over your quilt. So I have several different colors of these vis-a-vis markers. They're commonly available at any office supply store. And I think they are a protection for your quilt, but you can always make all kinds of reference marks on your quilt in order to help you be effective and get the designs. And we're going to be doing quite a bit more of that next week about marking and making the template fit our desires and our needs. Okay, so anyway, do me a favor, please like and share my video. And that's how we know that the content is resonating, and that lets us share with other people. And I just really appreciate if you would do that. So I thank you for your time, and have a wonderful Sunday, and take care of yourself and your loved ones, help each other, and And if you want to chat, you can always text me. I pretty much respond to everybody. So if you need a chat, love to chat with you. Have a great day, you guys. Bye-bye.